Domic, Noah Cohen, welcome to Permastoked, dudes. Great to have you.
Thanks for having us, Derik.
Yeah, right on. Noah, you are the second returning guest, beat only by the King of Stoke, Larry Cavero.
Dude, that sucks. I fully thought I was going to be the first returning guest. I think he said that earlier.
I said that for sure.
He's like, you're going to be the first returning guest. And I got excited, started patting myself on the back.
That's how I suckered him into it.
I was here for the accolades. That was it.
Right on. Well, if it's any consolation, Larry is unlisted. You will be the second returning guest listed on the podcast. He was sort of a cameo appearance when I was talking to his daughters.
Well, to be honest, if I'm going to get second to anyone, Larry's a pretty damn good guy to finish runner-up to. So
that's true.
Right now.
Absolutely. Right on. So you guys were not in the surf today, is that correct?
No surf today. No.
Man.
Yeah, he has bigger fish to fry. This guy's keeping the CSA going pretty much. So he picks his windows, and then I had some PRP injections actually on my knee because I've been struggling with her a little bit. So trying to get it on the mend.
That's right. You've been doing lots of rehab stuff. You were telling me a little bit about that last time.
Yeah. I forget when we exactly spoke. Was it last summer, July or August?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's been good. I think at the time I had torn my ACL like maybe in April, and then I had just been kind of rolling with it and didn't really experience too much. And I surfed all through the year through 2020 and had no issues. And until right at the end, I had a little tweak in December. And then since then, I've just been trying to kind of, explore some things. But overall, I think just kind of staying in the gym helped me a lot. And that was one thing right away that I drew correlation to was because of COVID and closures, I stopped lifting and doing a lot of like side training in the gym and squats and heavier stuff. And like a month and a half goes by and this tweak happens, and it was like an easy correlation to draw. So in a way, kind of cool to see, like your hard work is actually doing something.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, most of us are just, sitting back getting fat during COVID.
I did that too. It's like a roller coaster, right?
Yeah. In Ontario, we just were told yesterday or 2 days ago, you're only to go out if you got a medical appointment or you're going for groceries. But then but then they loosely say you can go outside for exercise and to walk the dog. So I'm hoping I don't get I have a dog, and I'm hoping
everyone's buying dogs this week, I guess.
Yeah. And I'm hoping we don't get arrested for either going surfing or going paddleboarding if it's classified as exercise.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it seems so backwards too. Like it seems like your health is paramount through all this, and how are you going to be healthy? By being outside and active. It's like the biggest fucking hypocrite. Yeah.
We don't want to go down that.
No. We're gonna already probably offended.
Well, and I work in.
Did get healthier? That's the weird thing.
Yeah.
But the contracts is here in BC and Vancouver Island. Like you would hardly even know that there was anything going on here. Like we can still go to bars. We go anywhere we want, really.
Wow.
But it closes at 10 o'clock. And you know what? To be honest, I'm probably sleeping by then anyway. So. Yeah. I feel like last call 9:30. Woo, I made it. It's pretty cool.
Not sure if you're creating fans or enemies right now.
Probably enemies at this point.
Well, how come in the Atlantic bubble? Are they allowed to go out or no? I have no idea.
The Nova Scotia guys, I'm not sure what things are like over there.
Over there, is that right?
But is anything open there? Because everything, it's weird. I don't know.
Restaurants and bars and that kind of thing are all open here.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Yeah, are you talking Ontario or East Coast?
Well, the Atlantic bubble where no one's allowed in or out or whatever, from what I understand.
I did know at one point there was a checkpoint going into Nova Scotia, but I'm not sure what's going on with that now.
Yeah, I'm not sure at all either.
Yeah.
I was actually just on a Zoom call with our IST team, which integrated support team for our Olympic pathway team, and speaking about injuries and stuff. But one of our one person on the team there is from Halifax, and I should have asked her what's going on over there. But I think, well, she's a physio, and I think, anyways, I'm speculating here, but I don't know. I know she's surfing for sure.
Yeah, I think
But-
all like Nico and those guys are all surfing. Logan,
Yeah.
I think they're in the water. I don't know how much they're allowed to travel around the province. Like, you know, if you live in whatever Lawrencetown and it's good on the South Shore, I don't think you're supposed to be driving up
Really?
and down chasing waves. I don't know.
You're probably supposed to stay in your bubble. Yeah.
Yeah,
I would
or maybe
imagine.
that's maybe relaxed. But I know at the beginning it was kind of like, if there's surf in your immediate area, it's okay, but don't be like.
Yeah, my understanding of the Atlantic bubble is anybody was allowed to move anywhere within the Atlantic bubble.
Oh, so once you're in, you're in.
Yeah, once you're in, you're in. That's what
Okay.
But
That could be true.
we can move on.
Yeah, no more COVID talk. Everyone's done enough of this.
Yeah. I wanted to tell you, Noah, so you're telling me that this year you're going to be sort of bigger, badder, faster, stronger. Is that how you're feeling?
Me? I hope
Yeah.
so. I think that's always the goal, right? Trending upwards.
Yeah, nice. I wanted to let you know, Noah, before we dive right in, your recommendations to me last time were to read Barbarian Days and check out Hand of God. Got them both for Christmas. Haven't read it, haven't watched it, but I'll let you know.
You took the first step.
Yeah.
That's good. I mean, it's only been a few weeks since Christmas, so.
True enough.
What's Hand of God again? Which one's that?
No, In God's Hands.
Oh, In God's Hands.
In God's Hands.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, you know.
Oh, Shane Dorian.
Yeah, it's a classic.
Oh, he's a beautiful man. He can't. He's
It's unreal.
just swooning every time he is on screen. He's amazing. He's got hair in that one too, right?
Yeah, I think he's still he's a full heartthrob in that one for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Still got a good hairline.
Yeah.
Nice. I'm looking forward to it. So where am I talking to you guys from? Are you in Tofino or are you somewhere else on the island?
We're in Victoria.
We're in the CSA headquarters right here. There's medals behind us.
Wow. Okay.
Rip Curl Pro search poster, San Fran, signed by all the athletes, all kinds of memorabilia back here.
Yeah, we
Amazing.
have a lot of stuff on the floor actually. But yeah, this is
So CSA headquarters is in Victoria. Now, is it in the Parliament buildings or in your basement?
You're basically looking at the king right here.
I'm right next to the premier's office.
Yeah.
I got an ocean view right here, corner office. We're actually technically in Oak Bay, but in Metro Victoria or whatever it's called, Capital Regional District.
Okay.
But yeah, no, we got our office is on Broad Street, but I just operate out of the home office when I am home, which is a lot this year. But normally we're on the road like 8-9 odd months a year. So just, yeah, as long as you got internet connection, I'm working. So
yeah. So I've only been to Victoria once. So I've heard about the break Sombrio. Is that nearby? Is that somewhere you surf or? Whoops. The old secret spots.
If you're gonna drop anything, Sombrio's the one you're allowed to.
Yeah, you're allowed to.
Okay.
It's in the BC park system. It's no secret. But yeah, it's since my time, it's seen a lot. I don't know if anyone has seen the documentary 49 Degrees, but it kind of walks you through, the 60s, 70s through to, I guess, the late 90s with, the squatting and how it turned into the BC park system. If you haven't seen it, I believe it's on YouTube. It's called 49 Degrees.
Okay.
Really cool history. And there's got, of course, some Tofino things in there. You're in there, right?
I didn't know that was before my time. I was still playing.
Yeah, it was like it was early 2000s. So it's got the Brewilers in it. Young Pete DeVries, probably right around 2003. So if you get a chance, it gives you a little history lesson on what's going on around here.
What's that video called?
49 Degrees.
Okay, I think I've seen that around on YouTube. Okay.
Yeah, no, it's pretty good actually. I revisited for the first time in probably over a decade, and I was like, oh my god, it's so nostalgic. That was amazing.
Yeah, I think I saw.
Oh, go ahead.
I think I saw some clips, like a very, very young, like Sepp Breweiler.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, it was like literally 18 years ago.
Yeah.
It was a long time ago. Jesus.
Right on. Sorry, what were you saying, Noah?
Oh, I had the VHS copy of 49 Degrees, and then a 5mm that this filmmaker Aaron Jackson made. And I like wore those VHSs out just because I was frothing so hard to see waves, you know, as a volunteer, to watch waves that were in wetsuits and close to home, and like waves that felt attainable and stuff that I might actually get to surf. And recently I had the thought of like, shit, I should try to watch those through like adult eyes, because I haven't since I was a teenager or even like a preteen basically. So I was kind of like, I should go to YouTube and track down like the.
Then we also got
SD,
Shrink.
Jeremy Kresge special right there. Yeah.
I was digging these things out. Like
we kind of should have like a little post of
and
Canadian
then there
content.
was like the Cold Water Classic series, or Peak to Breeze one in 2009. Yeah.
Wow.
That one out.
And I gotta get some of these DVDs.
Surf Canada YouTube channel, if you want to look that one up.
Okay.
Just downloaded it not too long ago, so have a look there.
So you don't have to buy the DVD; you can watch it online.
I poached it. And
can you even buy a DVD anymore? How does it work?
On Amazon, you could. Yeah.
All right.
And by the way, how come Surf Canada doesn't have a shop? Shandy was wearing this really cool shirt one time I wanted to pick up, but there's no shop button. So what's the secret to getting the gear?
Well, you got to be on the team. I get this request almost daily, and I really want to do, some fan gear, which is really just team gear for, the fans. And, we are talking with Rip Curl, who is our apparel partner, how we can fulfill those needs or wants through some network of their core shops. So look out for it. Well, I'm sure there'll be something before the Olympics. And then, it's just, it's tough because you gotta hit the minimums, and then there's sizes, and it's, who's gonna pay for all that? If it doesn't sell, there's only like
hopefully the people that you're selling it to.
There's only like 5 people that want it and had to buy 500.
I would think that's something you could sell at like the Tofino tourism van or something like that, possibly.
It's more complicated than it should be, but we are working on it.
Okay, cool.
We just actually got our Olympic athlete pins that just came.
I was actually going to try and scoot one of those.
Hold on a second. Let me
play show and tell.
I hope they.
They're really cool.
And so we're really stoked on that. And we'll probably be offering that online soon. Hopefully, generate a little bit of revenue for the team to go to the Tokyo Games. And I don't know if you can see it.
Nice.
It's pretty dope. Hold on. Here we go.
Oh yeah, that is sick. I like it.
There's Mount Fuji, and then the west coast of Canada.
Yeah, the orca whale,
killer whale,
sick wave with the coniferous forest. Nice, I like it. And I'm glad, and it doesn't have a year on it. That's key.
Well, again, we weren't allowed to actually do it. There's a lot of commercial branding restrictions when you're dealing with the Olympic Games and trademarking and all that. So this has to get cleared through the Canadian Olympic Committee, the Tokyo organizers, IOC, and so forth. So this is a compromise. Let's just say that we wanted to do a little bit more with the Tokyo and use their branding, but it wasn't allowed for athlete points anyways. So we're super stoked on this. They're very limited, and we think it'll be a big hit in Tokyo for the pin collectors, and I think it'd be a really cool memento for surf fans across Canada. So again, super limited, and we hope to have it out sometime soon, and maybe we'll work with our web developer and get a little work with Shopify and get it out, and hopefully with Rip Curl team apparel as well.
Right on. I will look for that, man. I'm stoked for that. So Dom, you are the executive director of Surf Canada?
That is my biggest hat, yes.
Okay.
I also wear many other hats under the organization, but yeah, we can just call myself an executive.
Right on. So before we dive too deep into Surf Canada, I just want to, we've had Noah on, we've heard his great origin story, his dad, the hippies versus the loggers, some really great tales. What's your origin story, Dom, in terms of surfing and discovering surf?
Oh, you don't want to hear about how my parents met?
If it's surf related.
Let's keep it surf related. Oh man,
none of this oil talk.
Yeah, let's. I don't know how far back we want to go. We're talking
right.
here.
Oh, did you?
Rick Kane, West Edmonton.
Oh yeah, we could go.
We're going freshwater vibe.
Yeah,
he's a freshwater guy. Like
that's right.
Well, it's good to start with. Where'd you grow? Where are you from? Where'd you grow up?
Yeah,
and
I was born in Calgary.
Okay.
So yeah, born and raised in Calgary. I, grew up a skier. I was always into, racing. So, as a little kid, we're probably, I'm going to be dropping names that probably no one has heard of in years, but just up the street, one of the original Crazy Connect downhillers is Ken Reed. I don't know if that rings a bell to anybody, but yeah, Ken Reed was a neighbor. So, I just followed him, like, cutting newspaper clippings. All I wanted to do was be a downhiller. And then, every year we'd be going away, on vacations, like 3-4 times a year to California, Mexico, Hawaii, and, always, played around the shore break and stuff as a little kid. And, one day I was just like, F it, I'm getting aboard and I'm paddling out, and we were out at, Waikiki, where, we had a timeshare, and, there was no lessons back then. There was no YouTube. You just kind of watched and kind of mimicked what other people were doing. So grabbed a board, paddled out, and literally I'll never forget, it was just out at Publix, spun on my first wave, and the rush that I got from dropping in was so much greater than from boogie boarding the wall there. It was just like the acceleration, the glide. And I completely remember, like, I got so far ahead of the wave. And again, this is Waikiki, so it's like crumbly, whatever. It might have been hip chest high. And I got so far in front of the wave, and I just kind of remember, like, oh, if the white water gets you, you're going to wipe out. And I remember the wave kind of caught up to me, and I fought my way through the white water, and all of a sudden it was like, a green wall in front of me, going front side. And I remember distinctly in my head, I'm like, this is it. This is all I want to do. And, the wave petered out, and I paddled back as fast as I can and did it over and over again, literally for the rest of that, 2-week vacation. I was out there every single day. And I think it was the second day I was out there, it was, rented the board, and literally that night I couldn't lift my arms because I paddled so much, and I was so burnt. And I was so bummed. Sidekick. And like my mom had to like put creams on me, and I couldn't go outside for days, and I was like so bummed that I couldn't surf for like I don't know how many days. But anyways, going back to Calgary as a 12-year-old or whatever, like that's literally all I wanted to do. And I remember going through one of my ski magazines, and there was like a little article or something about, I think it was like Tom Sims snowboarding. I'm like, oh my God, that's kind of like surfing on snow. And, this is I want to say, mid 80s. And, again, before internet, I don't know how I found out, but, just on the other side of town, there was the Ockenbachs, which were the first guys to bring snowboarding to Canada. And they had a shop called the Snowboard Shop out of his mom's garage. And I remember, getting a ride up there, and we were so like, wasn't sure, we're fired up, and like knocked on the garage, and, Ken opened the door, or it might've been Carl. And we rented some gear, and they had a hill in front of their house, and tried it out there. And then, you guys should go to Sunshine Village. And I don't know. That's kind of how it started. I was just super into like the flow of, snowboarding and powder. And it was like super similar to, what I experienced surfing. And then, every, Christmas vacation, spring, summer, Dad, let's go to let's go to the beach. Let's go to the beach. So we'd be going down, Huntington, and I'd go. We were seeing the OP Pro and in Hawaii. Going to the Pipe Masters, and I was just like fully obsessed. This is all I want to do. As soon as I got my car when I was 16, boom. I heard about from a high school friend that, hey, we went to Long Beach on Vancouver Island. And that was the first time I heard there was waves. I was like, what, it was in Canada? Because back then it was like literally, it wasn't California, Australia, Hawaii, Tahiti, Indonesia or whatever. There wasn't waves. Like you're looking in the magazines and whatever. And I was like, it blew my mind. And I was like, Dad, we got to go. We got to go check this place out, and I looked on the map and it was like, drove all the way out there. And I remember the first time, saw, because you don't see the ocean when you get to the junction. And you're like, where's the ocean? It's like, all you see is more trees. And we turned right at the junction and, saw the parks building. We asked them, they're like, oh yeah, turn left at Comer's Beach, and went to Comer's. And I remember coming out of the trees there down the path and just like, it was like, oh my God, it was like discovering plutonium or something. It was like, I don't know, it was like amazing. It was just like, oh my God, there's waves in Canada. And that really changed my trajectory, because for me, I was like, as soon as high school's done, I'm moving to Hawaii. That's what I'm doing. And when I discovered there was waves in Vancouver Island, and kind of got into like the little groups of surfers on, I started with the Nanaimo crew, and then the Tofino crew, and then I started going to university at UVic, and it was just kind of that way. But going back a few years, I was working for a shop called Westbeach, and with a buddy of mine, John Little, and this was like 1987, and we were just kind of twiddling our thumbs one winter. We're selling board shorts and bikinis in the middle of winter. There wasn't really much snowboard gear. And we were just talking about, let's have like a surf party, get our friends, make some trophies and all that kind of stuff. And then one of those nights, I was just randomly watching TV, and randomly the ISA World Amateur Championships from Newquay, England was on from the previous year, and boom, like light bulb. I'm like, what? You're doing a World Championships in England? I was like, well, we're doing a contest in Canada. So, like Westbeach fully supported it, proposed it. And then, that next year, 1988, basically, plus the momentum of the Calgary Olympics, like there was a lot of things kind of like, we got to do this kind of thing. And went to Long Beach, just put up a tent, didn't ask for permits, didn't ask for anything. Like, it wasn't really a parks, anything. It was free parking. So hard to
imagine that now.
But I totally remember, and again, this, exactly. There was no one out there. Like, it was like middle of summer. I think we saw one guy in the water, and I remember, and this was like, again, before the internet, before anything. And I remember before me. And I remember showing up, with the Westbeach crew, and like we didn't know who was going to show up. We didn't know how big of a contingent of surfers there were on the West Coast, but somehow word gets around, especially when the surf shops were really the central place to learn about the culture and everything else. And the word got out, and it was packed. And I remember the first day there, it was localism was still a thing back in the 80s.
Okay.
You didn't go down to, there were some South Island spots, and it was all the way through the 90s, and we'll get to that story later. But we got there, and it was like someone rode out with their feet in the sand, Westbeach go home, like 100-foot long sand footprints, Westbeach go home. And we're like, whoa, what's this all about? Anyways, we had it, and the Raph Breweiler won that first year, and he blew us all away. It was like, I think he just got back from California at the Permastoked surf camp, and he had like an Al Merrick surfboard, we're just like, oh man, look at this kid. Like, and I think he was like 12 or 13 at the time.
The young hot dog.
Yeah.
So was this a ISA registered event, or this was a private? Yeah.
No,
okay.
No, this is.
Oh yeah, you didn't even have permits. That's right.
No,
Okay.
no.
Exactly.
You got to think about the 80s where we came from. Everything was DIY, from snowboarding, like you just had to hike, if the resort didn't let you up. And back then, a lot of them didn't. You just had to find a way to go snowboarding, with skateboarding. You had to build your own ramps. There was no parks, and the same thing with surfing. There was no contest. There was nothing. And, like I said, growing up, with my parents taking the family out to, wherever we wanted to go. And like I said, saw the, OP Pro, which was the biggest contest of its time, which is now the US Open, and the Pipe Masters, and the Gotcha Pro in Sandy Beach. And, as an impressionable young teenager, and I was like, bikinis and cool guys and neon and loud music. And it was a party atmosphere. And you're just like, sign me up. This is what I want to do.
Yeah.
And on top of like, this is like not only the coolest sport, but it's the best feeling sport. So it was just like, yeah, it changed my whole life trajectory, going from I want to be a ski racer to I am 100% behind surfing. This is it. So yeah, that first contest in 1988 was just us doing it. We just said,
Nice.
Made a poster, made some trophies, told some people, they told some people, and yeah, it showed up. And then the following year in 89, we moved it to Cox Bay because there was a campground there and just a big group site. And it literally exploded. And Tofino back then, like you heard from Noah's story, it was just all resource extraction. So fishing and logging, there was literally no tourism. People never heard of Tofino or EQ. People went, it was like, oh, I'm going to Long Beach.
So when people went to Florencia and didn't go.
Yeah. No one even, my first time to Tofino or to Long Beach, I never even made it to Tofino.
Yeah, it's like amazing to think that could, there's no chance. And you're like, no, this is it, end of the line.
Yeah, I'm going to Long Beach, that's it. And yeah, that first trip that I went there, I actually grabbed gear from Live to Surf, which is, in similar area, like kind of where Choco Fino is right now in that original house. And they gave me like this dive suit with a beaver flap and this 70s single fin fiberglass thing. But man, I was so fired up because we were just going. I didn't think we were going surfing because I was, in Vancouver for Expo 86 at the time when I first heard about Long Beach and waves in Vancouver Island. I was like, we got to go. So, back to, our first contest. And then in 1989, we did it again. We moved to Cox Bay. We had a big group site. The campground still exists, actually just reopened. And it went literally from, a couple dozen people to literally hundreds of people on the beach. And it was sunny, mid-20s. It felt like California suddenly. And the locals were like, what is happening here? Like, what's happening? It didn't make any sense. Like you'd have, like going to Tofino now, you'd be like that's nothing. But back then it was like literally no one was on the beach. No one would be in the water. Did you know then
that you were a part of something really special? No.
Yeah. We just did because we wanted to. We wanted to do it because it was fun. There wasn't a pathway to professionalism or, to the Olympics, even though that's always like been a dream to go to the Olympics, originally as a downhill skier or whatever your sport was. And it wasn't even a thing for surfing. But like I said, experiencing all those contests in the 80s, I was just like, oh my God, this is way better than the Olympics. Are you kidding me? There's like bikini contests and t-shirt contests and people are drinking on the not that any of that stuff happens anymore, or at least not in North America, but it was
pre-PC.
Yeah, it was wild times in the 80s, like the OP Pro. There was, that first year we were there was, the big Huntington Beach riots. Like cars were getting burned, it was crazy. Like it was a 100% different time. People got way more loose. There wasn't smartphones to snitch on your neighbors or whatever else. But, it was definitely a lot. and that was the other thing that was really attractive to me. And I think we talked about it before is, surfing compared to other sports is completely unregulated, no structure. It's whatever you want to make of it. So those first contests, we kind of mimicked what I saw when I went to, the contests that I went to, we made it as close as we could. And it was just really to have a good time, to be part of that lifestyle. And really the cool thing about those first contests, it was really kind of the first time that all these divergent local spots on Vancouver Island actually came together. So you had, mainland surfers coming out, South Island surfers, mixing in with the Tofino and the Yuki and the East Islanders. So, none of them really mixed before, Tofino would not come to South Island. Your car's getting burned, glass smashed.
Wow.
Yeah, it was gnarly. Like, things were way gnarlier. And this contest finally kind of brought everybody together. And, you crack a couple beers with the boys and girls, and, those weird little cultural things kind of go away. And I think it's, as you saw the incarnations later and later, it became more apparent that what we were doing was actually really special. People got married because of those contests. People broke up because of those contests.
Got married.
Divorced. So these
children were born out of wedlock at that concert.
Yeah, so these contests became like a cultural flashpoint for West Coast surfers, and it was something that I think a lot of people look forward to on the calendar every year. And so fast forward to now, and it's a lot harder to have a contest. There's way more requirements with permits, insurance, traffic plans, security. It's not how it used to be, and that's pretty. It's just the way our culture as a whole has gone.
And our community especially too. Like Tofino is so that now, like
pretty soon. And pretty soon you might have to add COVID vaccine to that list of eligibility requirements.
Well, hopefully not. Hopefully it's not a requirement, but we just had a contest in November for our local national team championships, which we call the Rip Curl Hometown Showdown in lieu of the national championships, because we were allowed to have 11 people on the beach without getting a permit. We still had to get approvals from the municipality and tourism and all that, and had to submit our COVID mitigation plan and everything else. So, it's still very involved, but a much smaller and no spectators, made for TV kind of event. So, it was a lot different than what we normally have, because the nationals, what was known before as a Rip Curl Pro Tofino, and before that Rip Curl Pro Stu, and Summer Surfjam before that. It's gone through many incarnations, but the one thing that it always had was that cultural aspect. The people on the beach just celebrating the beach and surf lifestyle on top of the competition part, which is really, really important. And unfortunately, we lost that last year. And honestly, it probably doesn't look like it's going to happen this year either. Live events, particularly in the first half of 21, not going to happen. So, if we're looking at, potentially in September 21, that we'll see. But that's definitely an issue. But we're doing everything we can. And, back to our original conversation, about being outdoors and a healthy lifestyle. I think Vancouver Island has really been really fortunate because of our geography. Even though we've, had over, I think, 3-4 million visitors to the island over the summer, from Ontario, from Quebec, from Alberta, we have, almost a negligible amount of infections, and I think 12 deaths, and they were all, from what I understand, in their 80s, in palliative care as well. So we've been extremely fortunate, and I attribute that to the outdoor lifestyle. Everyone's outside, and having the ocean, it's a high ozone area, Anywhere the ocean meets the land, it's the highest concentration of ozone, which is
Yeah.
really good for your lungs.
Okay.
Yeah, they bring. It's actually medically proven. They bring. I don't know. I don't want to go too deep
Pass
into
it
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not no authority on it.
So,
but,
yeah.
anyway, it's super healthy. So surfing itself is it's been identified as one of the lowest risk sports in the Olympics. So yeah, we're looking really good for even having fans in Tokyo. Now that sorry, I'm pivoting all over the place.
That's okay.
Looking forward
Yeah.
to Tokyo 20+1. Yeah, so yeah, surfing's super healthy if you can do it. Get out there. Yeah, being in the ocean is, not just mentally good for you, but
Yeah.
well.
So those early contests you were doing under the umbrella of Westbeach, I remember that brand. I used to have a teal hoodie from them, but I think they kind of tapered out like in the 2000 teens. Is that correct?
Yeah. So Chip Wilson, who you may have heard.
Oh, this is Chip and Pepper. This was his.
Chip Wilson's the owner of Lululemon, or was the founder of Lululemon. And
oh, wrong guy. Okay. Yeah.
Different guy, but he also started Westbeach in Calgary.
Oh, okay.
And he combined that with this shop in Vancouver called California, BC. And so they opened up a shop in West Forth and then one in Toronto, and they kind of went across Canada for a while. And they got deep into snowboarding, and the Westbeach Classic up at Whistler is still legendary. Like, it's one of those things. It all happened like right around the same time, like the late 80s and 90s and stuff, when literally anything goes. You just say you want to do it, and there's really no one to stop you. It was, yeah, okay, cool, just all's good until someone gets hurt, kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a really exciting time for snowboarding back then too. Getting into the Olympics in '98, and it was a really quick trajectory with Westbeach there, and they supported surfing because that's where the brand really originated from, right? It was the first place in Canada that brought in like Billabong and Quicksilver and all that kind of stuff. Like, you couldn't get it anywhere else. It was back in the days where you literally had to go to California or Australia or whatever to get your Vans or your Quicksilver, whatever. Now it's like, well, you can get it anywhere in the world, right? So it was kind of a point of pride back then when you actually had surf gear.
Yeah.
Oh my God, you were in Hawaii or you were in California, your checkered Vans, or now it's ubiquitous.
Yeah. Now it's like, you were in Nanaimo.
Yeah, you were wrong. Yeah, Amazon, whatever, right?
Yeah.
It was really crazy times, and there was a lot of good energy and money being thrown at it. Like, I remember Westbeach was just like, whatever you want to do, we'll support it. Like, doesn't matter. Well, we're not going to give you $100,000 check, but they were super supportive. And then, anyways, back to the real story. So we did in '88, '89. And that's when the town was just like, holy crap, what's going on here? Way too many people. And around the same time, I think it was in '89 as well. There was like, again, like Huntington Beach had their riots. Kelowna, Regatta had riots, well, what the police call riots in, I think, '85 and '86. Qualicum Beach had their riot in whatever. So it's kind of a thing, like oxymoron. Yeah. Well, they had the sandcastle building contest, but it was just teenagers, no supervision, booze, things just spiral. And it was just kind of the culture at that time, right? Things just kind of don't tell me what to do, we'll do what we want, kind of thing. And you get a crowd mentality, and suddenly there's 10,000 people doing things, right? But from what I understand, no one got hurt. It's all property damage, right? So insurance takes care of that, right?
I suppose.
Anyway, so my point being, so in '89, the town was like, oh man, no riots here, we can't do this. So we didn't have it in 1990. And so I'm gonna kind of go back to the East Coast, and without knowing what's going on, we only know what's going on in our area. Again, no internet. So what was going on at the same time on the East Coast, there was a group of guys that started the Canadian Surfing Association, CSA, to field a team to the very first time in Japan in 1990. So
Was that for ISA?
Yeah, the ISA World Championships and World Amateurs, 1990. So there was a group of 4 guys from Halifax that went there and kind of started the thing. And we didn't hear about it till probably a year later. I think I saw it in a newsletter or something like that, and from one of the shops called HTO here. And I'm like, oh, so amazing. Let's, so I think I wrote him a letter. Couldn't afford a long distance phone call across Canada back then.
Wrote a letter.
Wrote a letter, and 3 months later got a letter back. And back then, the World Championships were every 2 years. So the next Worlds were in 1992 in Lacanau, France. And I was like so fired up. I'm like, I want to be a part of this. And sent them a resume and I think a video resume, and so I got on the team, and flew to Lacanau, France without knowing any of these guys. And
so you were an athlete at this time.
Well, we were competing. We were running our own contests, and I was doing a few contests in California too.
Okay.
And it was, again, we're talking about like late 80s, early 90s. And, there was no hope of me being anything beyond what I was.
Okay. But I mean, what were you hired as at CSA?
Oh, I wasn't yet.
Oh, okay.
We're getting to that yet. So
sorry.
It was happening on the East Coast. I just applied as a surfer to compete on the national team to go to Lacanau, France, at the World Amateurs. So when I went there, it was all East Coast except for myself, and it was absolutely formative for me, because back then the World Amateurs it included all the disciplines. It was like the open men's and women's, juniors, longboard, kneeboard, bodyboard. There's like, I think 600, 700 athletes across 3 or 4 different podiums. It was my first real exposure on the inside of being like a surfer competing in the biggest surfing event on the planet in terms of participation of competitors. And it was crazy. And it's Lacanau, France in the 90s. And there's, it was wild. Like, the French fans are absolutely incredible. And, back then they had a championship tour event just before that in Lacanau. It was part of the ASP tour, which predates the WSL. We're like surfing the same place as the professionals. And like I said, this was the amateurs back then.
Oh, okay.
Before they got rid of that distinction between amateur and professional. Now it's just open. I remember my first heat. It was probably maybe knee high. I remember it was low tide, knee high, and like literally maybe 5 yards off the dry sand. And we were like sitting there, and I go, I can't believe it. And I remember the beach announcer telling the crowd they had to like step back so the judges could actually see the surfers in the water. Like it was like so tiny. And
wow.
I didn't make that heat. I think I got third or whatever. And then my next heat, it was like 12 to 15 foot. It was like,
wow.
It was like, yeah. So the North Atlantic, especially in the Bay of Biscay, it's like, it's insane. But the really cool thing is like, you're hanging out with, people or surfers from all around the world, like literally, like hanging with the Aussies and, the Americans, people that you're actually seeing in the magazines. And so it was really, really cool, and actually like lit a fire in me to, actually do what we do on the West Coast, but actually make it, formalize it into an organization and be a part of the Canadian Surfing Association as a Western conference or district or whatever. So basically came back from that and did that. So we started the BC Surfing Association, the This guy Peter Jenks actually started it with a couple other guys, and it was all happening all at the same time. And yeah, we ended up becoming the president of that, and we started running qualifying like team selection events, because back then we were splitting the team between the East Coast and West Coast, like half and half, because there couldn't be a nationals. No one was flying back and forth, and you know, the world was a much bigger place than it is right now. It seems like, you know, getting around was much more difficult and much more expensive, and you know, connecting was a lot more difficult. So we were just splitting the team. And in 1994, we were in Rio, Brazil. And, you know, again, it was supposed to be a split team, but it ended up being mostly from the West Coast. And that's where all the Brewwilders showed up. So that's when I really got to know, you know, Sepp and Raph and Francis and Catherine. And I'm trying to remember who else was part of that team. But yeah, it was an incredible experience. First time in Rio. And again, you know, talking about insane crowds. We're talking, you know, Brazil, and it was wild times. And you know, and that was the first, and that's when Fernando Aguirre, who's the president of the ISA, was actually elected back then in 1994 in Brazil, and he's been the president ever since. So we were there when he was elected, and we threw him in the pool as, you know, for winning the election and all that kind of stuff. And he's still there, and yeah, so I was running the BCSA part of it, and it just kind of kept evolving. And then I went to Australia in, you know, I'm kind of skipping a few events here, but
that's
cool. I went to Australia, I think it was 1999, and basically hit what was called the Grand Slam event. So it was Bells Beach, the Billabong, which was up in Kira, used to be the Billabong. There was one in Manly Beach, which was the Coke Classic, and there was one more. Anyways, I did all those events like as actually as a journalist. Actually went there, and I learned a lot of the inside workings of the ASP. And yeah, I came back after 6 months in Australia, you know, kind of working the back end, you know, the administrative side of the sport. And yeah, brought it back here, and yeah, continued. And we basically resurrected the Summer Surfjam, which is what those original contests were called.
Okay.
And brought it back in 2000, and you know, Quicksilver signed on as the title sponsor, and that's basically just as what's that surf movie called again? The girl one, Blue Crush happened.
Yeah.
It was right around then too, and literally surfing in Tofino exploded. Like
really,
the 2000s on, it was, yeah, like we're talking thousands of people on the beach. Again, it wasn't as hard to get permits as it is now, or you know, as involved. And yeah, it was crazy. Yeah, we had so that it just kept evolving and evolving, and yeah, through the 2000s. And then again, I think we became, you know, a victim of our own success by 2004. Quicksilver basically tried to take the event from us and go directly through the town. And so that we went through a bunch of legal problems for 2 years. And then, yeah, and then we basically restarted in 2007. Drew Hawkshaw moved from Quicksilver to Rip Curl. And he and me were just like, hey, we got to get this contest going again. And I go, Drew, you know, you be the face, I'll do all the work. And yeah, we restarted as a Rip Curl Stew, and that went on for, well, it just changed its name and still continues to this day as the Rip Curl Nationals. So yeah,
amazing.
That's pretty much it. And then yeah, I moved from, so the Canadian Surfing Association's always been headquartered on the East Coast in Halifax. And in 2011, I was appointed president, probably because no one over there wanted to do it anymore, as an interim president. And
never got thrown in the pool though.
Yeah, I never got thrown in a pool. No. So that was 2011, and yeah, kind of evolved from there. And in, I think, the following year, and I was kind of like, well, yeah, I'll take it on. You know, my heart wasn't super fully into it. Like I wasn't fully into backing the ISA at that point. We were more going down the professional pathway. I really really wanted to do WSL events, and that's when we had, the Coldwater Classic in 2009 and 2010. I really thought that was the best pathway for Canadian surfers. Who cares about the ISAs? It's like, it's fun. And, it's and back then it was like in that kind of years, it was really good for the juniors, but for the opens, it wasn't really good. So it was a really good stepping stone for juniors. And that's where Noah jumps in there. I think your first event was Huntington.
Yeah, I think so. And it was the same, like you said, it was half East Coast, half West Coast at the time. So, just that alone, you get to like interact and meet surfers that you have maybe heard of that haven't met, within our own country. And then the same thing, like you're brushing shoulders with, I remember when I went, there's the guys that are like dominating the pro surf scene now were the guys like, I think it was Brazil the following year. I think Jordy and Julian were in the final together. Like, so it's the same guys, that have kind of been at the top their entire lives, and you get to surf against them and see them surf in person when your level is, coming from a place like this, you're just so green to it. And it's like, it's such a mind blowing experience to get to go, surf a heat against someone like that and brush shoulders. And maybe, as you get older, like you eventually kind of at the after party or having a beer with, all these cool people and cool surfers. And I still have so many friends like that I met at those ISAs that, I've gone to California and stayed with one of the buddies that I met at that games in Huntington. To this day, I still hang out with him, and he's one of my good friends. And, friends in Europe, friends in Australia, all over the world that you now have like a crash pad or someone to meet up with. So it was a really cool, like a lot of camaraderie,
Yeah.
And when you're competing for your nation, there's a lot of national pride, but also you're trying to represent your country as best you can. And part of that is in the relations between the competitors too. So everyone's kind of putting their best foot forward, and there's no ego, and it's just like, it's a celebration of good times and surfing, So it was an epic thing to get to be a part of. And
what was that like when you joined forces with the East Coast? Was it like you just merged and meshed really well, or was there, big differences in the culture? Or
we talked about being honest in this, right? There's honesty in this podcast.
Yeah.
You want to be honest?
Yeah.
From our West Coast perspective, we, didn't feel like the quality of surfers coming out of the East Coast was worthy of that level of quota.
There was good surfers. There just wasn't as many. And then there would be a West Coast woman or man that got left behind for like in favor of someone who was, far inferior because the breakdown had to work that way.
I see. Yeah.
Frustrating, I think, for West Coast people, especially the ones that got left out of the team, and then they look at someone who's like literally can't even ride down the line but gets to go to this event or something. So there was that, and that's just unfortunate that it had to go that way. But it wasn't like there was bad blood. It just was that was kind of like a bummer of the way it was. And the scene on the East Coast was newer, so it just that's the way it goes.
Yeah.
But it was like when I went, I think Nico went that game. That those games, or maybe he went for the Open Men's that same year, and he was just as good as everybody from the West Coast. It just he was the only one at the time that was at the level of Sepp and Raph and Pete and those guys. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, you look down the list and you're like, oh fuck, that person, as nice as they may be, just shouldn't be at an international event. Yeah. Like I remember when I was there in Huntington, there was a kid. I honestly don't even remember his name, but he like needed to be rescued in his heat at Huntington, like head high, and he was like in the pier drowning. And I was like, fuck, you're competing at like an international event, and the lifeguard needs to save you, and it's head high. Like that puts in perspective, right? Yeah, not a good sign. No, and it's just kind of like, especially as a teenager, you're already like super self-conscious about being from a fringy nation, and then that happens. You're like, sweet, we look dope, Jamaican bobsled. 2.0. Yeah. But like whatever, it's not at the end of the day. Fucking cares. But it just was funny at the time. I remember I was like, maybe you don't belong here. No offense. Wow.
Yeah, you need a little bit more development, and that's that's growing pains for everybody. And we totally understood the East Coast perspective. But
this is by no means a dig at the East Coast.
No, not at all. Like,
no problem.
No, like
we love the Maritimes.
It's just, like the depth of talent wasn't as deep as the West Coast, and not to say the depth of talent on the West Coast was really that deep. No. It literally was just enough to make a full team. So it was just, it was the ones that got left behind for surfers that really shouldn't have been on a national team to compete at the World
Gotcha.
Championship. Other than that, yeah, everyone got along 100%. Like when, out of the heat and everybody supported each other. Obviously, it's just like, oh my God, we could have had someone else in this heat instead or whatever. And we could have done better. We could have been in 23rd place instead of 27th or something like that,
Yeah.
But, it's all good. We're here now. And, super excited about, doing events on the East Coast again. And I that's something that we want to do and we're looking to do this fall as well. Like I said, we did the hometown showdown just this November, just a tight little, 1-day event. We want to take that same format and do it in Halifax as well. And as I mentioned on a previous call, I'm doing Toronto, basically a strike mission kind of thing. And we'll have a lot more details as they come, but, spoke with CBC Sports today.
Okay.
Yeah, bit of a big deal.
Yeah,
excited.
You heard it here first. Breaking news.
Yeah, and they're really excited about what we want to do, and so we're excited about bringing competitive surfing to Toronto and to Nova Scotia under the Surf Canada banner, and
so you're looking at doing some Great Lakes competitions. Is that what you're?
Yeah, one competition.
Wow,
amazing. Each one's going to look a little different. It's going to be, based on, what's happening in the area at the time. So, we'll see how it goes. Like the West Coast version is going to be much different than it is going to be in the Great Lakes versus Halifax. Each one it's its own special and unique zone, and we're going to celebrate each one for what it is.
Yeah.
And then
when you
also give it some stakes, whether it's prize money or a ticket to nationals or whatever, we'll still come to that. But it's really exciting for us, and I'm super fired up to go to the Great Lakes and Halifax. Yeah, I'm sad that I've never been.
Well, now that I'm hearing you guys are coming this way, it's not like I would ever compete, but be sure to maybe keep me in the loop of that. I'd love to see how I could be involved with that.
Like all the contests we do, it's not just the competitive side, it's also the cultural part, people coming down and celebrating the lifestyle of it. Mm-hmm. So, you don't have to be a competitive surfer to enjoy a contest. Like there's way more to it. It's like, like Noah said, when you go to the World Championships, it's like, bumping into people you never would have before. And just find, the common ground is obviously surfing. And sharing a beverage and a lot of stories and making friends. So,
man, that is the best news I've heard all day. As we watch the United States crumble with Capitol Hill stuff, and man, it's good to get some good news. Thank you, Dom. So
I hope we can pull it off. It's what we want to do, and obviously we have to, take what the local health authorities will allow and what the local communities will allow as well. We're not going to force our way into anything. This is something that's got to be community based and something they want. So, from all indications, like everybody I've talked to, I haven't heard a negative. It's like, yes, please, let's do this. It's
definitely positive that you heard from Derik, I think.
Exactly. I think it's going to be super fun. And something that we can grow on, not just, not from us directing it, but, from the Great Lakes region and Halifax, we just want to lend our expertise of running events, which we've been doing since, like I said, 1988, and going to international events and professional events and stuff like that. So, we got 3 decades of experience, and just bring that to it. But like I said, the community is really going to drive it. And super excited about it. I know we went off on a tangent. I can't remember where we're going with that.
The show is all tangents. It's fine.
So if we wanted to talk about it, 2011, I got the presidency of the Canadian Surfing Association. And so it's just kind of like, okay, well, I'm not sure what we're going to do with this. We're going to keep running our contests over here. And, we started calling them national championships because, we could. And, our contests were growing. And then I got an email from the Pan American Games, and there was a movement to bring surfing into the Pan American Games in Lima in 2019. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, we've gone through this before, the Sydney Olympics in 2000 tried to get the surfing in, and we've kind of been through this Olympic roller coaster before. So I didn't put a lot of effort into it. And, they asked me to do, contact the Canadian Olympic Committee and get their, letter of support and all that, because they needed a certain percentage of the Pan American countries to support a new sport coming into the program.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, this is pretty exciting. Let's see if we can, make this work. And, Pan Am Games is the second biggest multi-sport game on the planet after the Olympics. And I'm like, wow, that'd be so cool. And, Lima, everyone knows surfing, and surfing's a big thing there. And, maybe we can pull this one off. And then literally about a year later, Tokyo had surfing on the short list of program on their sport program. And like I said, we've gone through this before with Sydney and other potential games hosts. And when it got on the short list and they decided it was like these these new sports are nothing, we're like, whoa, wait a sec. Surfing's included on the short list and an all or nothing proposition. And that's when things really started happening with the Canadian Olympic Committee. And man, if I knew then what I know now, what I had to go through to get Canadian Surfing Association as a recognized national sport federation, it was so much work. Basically, you had to start from scratch.
Wow.
That's why it's no longer called the Canadian Surfing Association, Surf Canada. We kept the CSA part of the name, CSA Surf Canada, but its trade name is Surf Canada, just for continuity and a nod to the heritage and everything else. But yeah, we're fully recognized national sport federation and national sport organization through Sport Canada, who's our funding, our main funding source. Still going through a few hoops there to get core funding. We have, for the first time ever, one of our surfers is a carded athlete. So Cody Young is a carded athlete because he was ranked top 16 in the world after the last World Championships.
Wow.
He just missed it by one spot. He got 17th in 2017, but he wouldn't have been eligible back then anyways, because our organization wasn't eligible.
Okay.
We talk about that insane story. And that's the other thing about, surfing and sports for me, why it keeps me going. It's just all these chicken skin moments, like, when he got 17th in France in Biarritz. It's just like nothing else makes me jump out of the seat than, like a Canadian doing well. Like Pete Breezes on the QS or, him winning here is like I still get chills thinking about it.
Yeah.
It's just, Mateo Olin winning gold and bronze in Lima and, and again, bronze. It was just like these moments in Canadian surf history is like unbelievable. And I was there, I feel like, I contributed a little bit for their success and, but, I'm such, I don't even know if I'm a super fan. I'm just like so obsessed by it. It's like one of those things that I can't quit.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how.
You're a fan of sport, though.
Yeah,
right?
I'm a fan of sport, but I'm obsessed by surfing.
So Noah, let me ask you this, Noah, about Dom, because I'm sure he's not gonna want to boast about himself. But I'm curious. I didn't know the extent of Dom's involvement. I knew he was pivotal, but hearing this story, I mean, Dom, you've been there every step of the process. So Noah, I'm curious, man, from your angle and from the athlete's angle, how do you guys look to Dom? Like, he sounds like the freaking godfather of Canadian surfing. Like, he's literally
godfather of Canadian competitive surfing.
Yeah.
Dom's a kook. He's useful, but he's a kook.
Yeah. Well, for me, that was funny, like listening to that timeline that he just kind of shared with us. I mean, up until I think the 05 Quicksilver Surf Jam that he cited as the final one before they had a little bit of a, whatever you want to call it, disagreement. That was the first event that I remember, like that I can actually, go back and put myself on the beach. And I remember it was like, I think that one was presented by Coors Light maybe, or that might have been a later one, but there was like a hot tub on the beach. It was like this party, Seps in like a visor, dumping beer on his head. And like, it was just like such a, like you described, such a different time. But for me, that was like, I was this like little kid just freaking out about how sick everything was, like, and so I probably met Dom officially like at one of those events, probably that 04, 05 event. And then yeah, like as I started traveling when I was a teenager, Dom not only would be like the guy that facilitated these events at home, but if I was passing through Vancouver, it was like, hey dude, you can always stay at my house. I'm always going to help you out. Like it was always like fostering any sort of career that I may have thought was coming my way, or not even, just being a friend and being a good dude through surfing, like we said before, like those relationships that you build through surfing and then make friends around the world. Like Dom, for me, was always that guy in Van. I was always crashing on his couch, driving me to the airport. So he was like essentially doing what he does now for me for nothing out of kindness. So I remember Dom right away from that, as like outside of the surf contest stuff. Okay. But he was, an integral piece of where we're all at now, because there wouldn't have been contests. Like everyone thought it was sick, but no one cared enough to actually do the work. Yeah. So Dom was the guy that put his head down and actually made the shit happen, and it's pretty cool that it's been the same guy putting in the work for nothing except for the love of the game, literally, since before I was even born, like that's kind of a testament to how long. No, hey, we've been coming to the same party for a dozen years, and I know is that depressing? I think it's whatever, but no, it's one of those things where he's donated and given so much of his time, and there's always going to be people that might think this is a dumb idea or that's a dumb idea, but like at the end of the day, no one was fucking doing anything at all about it. No one was saying, oh, I want to organize. It was like, oh, I don't like this, but also I'm going to go home now. So if Dom didn't do it, no one ever would have. And it's pretty epic that he's done this much and still continues to do so much. Like the guy seriously will sit in this room and be on the phone or emailing or, filling out like form after form, like you said, to be recognized as a governing body. Like it's all a lot of work. And I think people forget that. But yeah, it's been really cool to have him as a friend. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
You gotta make it look easier. Yeah, it's not cool, right?
Yeah.
Well, Dom and I were talking the other day, and I think you just raised a good point, is that from the outside, the optics, looking at something like going to CSA Surf.com or whatever, surfcanada.com, you're seeing these dynamic videos and awesome branding, and everything just looks so polished that you would imagine there's this huge committee and team of people doing things. Not that there isn't some others. But
like, oh, we did this. It's like, no, that's the royal we. He's done everything. No one's fucking doing shit.
Well, there's like six of these. So.
Wow.
Yeah, and yeah, I think people don't really realize that that's the way it's always been. And even those events, like whether it's a rip curl event or a Quicksilver event over the years, whatever, it's always kind of been Dom behind the scenes doing the work. And there's a lot of credit to be given, no matter like if you have anything to say, like bad or good, there's just so much time he's put into it, and you kind of got to recognize him for sticking with it and loving it. Like literally, the guy won't watch a surf video, he just watches old heats, because if there's nothing at stake, he's not into it. Like it's like the sport aspect is so fun too. So it's a unique perspective, and it's cool, and it's just cool to see him care the whole time,
Yeah, for real.
It's super true, but I have a hard time watching free surfing clips unless it's like a weird wave or the boys here. Yeah, I'll watch surf contests all day long, no problem. Wow. It's been a tough year not watching surf contests. So we just got the old WSL contest.
The heat's on demand. It's just like cycling through.
But nice. It's been super cool. Like other things that we haven't touched on. Beyond the Coldwater Classic. I got the opportunity to do the beach announcing at the Rip Curl Search event in San Francisco in 2012, and the Coldwater Classic in Santa Cruz. when Taj Burrow won that one and Gabe Medina won search event. So, and I was doing the beach commentating for Kelly Slater's 11th world title.
Wow.
So, me talking about my timeline, because I rarely do it, it's like, oh my God, I feel like Forrest Gump here. I've been kind of like at these all kind of I was also at, I was at Pipeline at Kelly Slater's very first
Dom Surf.
Yeah, very, very first time he won the world title in '92 at Pipeline. I was there next to his girlfriend when he won the title, and I was the beach announcer in 2011 or 2012 when he won the 11th one. And yeah, it's kind of weird. Yeah, it's a bit of Forrest Gump stuff there going on. But yeah, now we're on knocking on the door of Tokyo 2020, and the thing that keeps me up at night is like I don't want to leave any, like they say, any stone unturned. I want to make sure our surfers don't miss any opportunity for them to get that shot at the first Olympics ever. So, and beyond that, we're already working on 2024 and for Paris 24 and Tahiti and 28 in LA. And we got side projects with wave pools and there's literally hundreds of things I'm dealing with.
He's still saying we though. He keeps saying we.
Well, there's more people than me. There is more. We have consultants and volunteers and board of directors and stuff like that. It's not all me, but yeah, I'm kind of the glue, I guess, the central figure in all of it.
Yeah, for sure. When there's a book written,
it's exciting, like honestly, there's so many days that I'm like, why am I doing this? This sucks. It's like there's so many demands on me, and I'm like, why am I doing this? I could be surfing like this guy, but no, I'm stuck on 10 Zoom calls in a row, and I gotta, all these forms and papers and things to do and phone calls. But it's like I can't quit. Like my Mount Everest right now is getting a Canadian to the Olympic Games and hitting the podium, and I truly believe they have the capacity to do it. I truly believe it. We are gonna shock the world, and that's the chip on my shoulder, and it's always has been from the very beginning. Canadian surfing, are you kidding me? And now it's like you're proud to be a Canadian surfer, because of these guys. Like all the content they put out, it's like, yeah, you can paddle out with your shoulders high and you're stoked. Yeah, where are you from? America? No, I'm Canadian. No way. Do you know Pete DeVries, Noah Cohen, Raph Ruweiler, Sapp? Like all the boys. Nico Manos. Like. I'm missing a bunch of people. Of course, Mateus, like we've got a pretty, considering how few people actually live on the coastline in Canada, we've got a solid amount of surfers that are world class.
Yeah.
And I'm very, very proud to be a Canadian surfer. And I'm very stoked that, I was a small part of it all the way through.
Yeah. So you guys have both traveled a lot. What are, Dom and Noah, what are some of the characteristics that you think capture the spirit of Canadian surfer? What sets us apart? Not even necessarily competitive, but what do you see with Canadian surfers when they're out in the wild?
I think right away you look at what you have to go through, like to deal with the weather and the climate. Like that alone is a pretty big deterrent, especially as a youth. Like show me how many 8, 9, 10-year-olds are excited to put on a 5 mil and paddle out alone and get smoked for the first 3-4 years of their surf life. That is a testament to your dedication right there. So if you get through those young years and progress and get to the point, maybe where you are competing internationally or whatever, you have to make it through a pretty rough environment compared to getting nudged into a wave at Waikiki when you're 5 years old and on your pop's longboard, right? It's just such a different thing to come through. And I think the personality type too, it's a little bit more hard nosed, a little bit more blue collar. It doesn't really lend itself to a friendly, especially when I was coming up, and more so for him, even it's localized. No one's looking to promote the sport. You're kind of battling all these little variables right off the bat. But in that, I think there's a mutual respect created, because when you look over at someone who's put that time in, you feel what they went through as well. What they pushed through. So you have this appreciation for each other, I guess, in a way, and how much of a commitment it is. And I think when you travel, that's the number one thing that people trip on is oh my God, you surf in that weather, which as you know, isn't really that bad once you you have a brand new Rip Curl Flash Bomb that you put on toasty dry because you're rotating through 3 or 4. It's not so horrible, but but yeah, I think that's the thing that people right away are drawn to, the elements that you push through, and maybe that's true to a degree, but once you get used to it, it feels like, par for the course. And yeah, I think Canadians in general are kind and polite and respectful wherever they go, and that is something that people always, like you mentioned about, oh, are you American? It's like as soon as they find out you're Canadian, you're automatically like 2 pegs up in their books. You haven't even done anything other than Canadian flag on your chest, basically, and you're kind of good to go. So it makes it a little easier to travel as well.
No thanks to Dom's 80s crew. Good thing we moved.
That was the 80s all around the world.
Yeah, I don't think that was, specific to anywhere.
Yeah, I think the 80s still exist in like, Central American and South American countries. Like they're a little, we're just, anyways. Yeah, I just want to add on to what Noah said. It's, I think it doesn't matter what, as a Canadian, it's the commitment to be a surfer, whether it's not easy being a surfer in Canada at all. Like, even if you live on the beach, which is very few of them, the time commitment, the type of jobs you have, the type of car you have to drive, the money you have, whether you're a river surfer, whether you live on, mainland in Vancouver or Toronto, like it is like, that has got to be your North Star. Everything that you do in your life, it's not like an add-on to your life. It is your life. Yeah. And everything else is kind of like supports it. Yeah. Like to be a Canadian surfer. Like even me, I live in Victoria, across the streets of the beach, but you get shitty waves a couple times a year. I got to drive an hour and a half to go surf. And that's pretty close for a city.
Wow.
It's
it's the closest city.
Other than Halifax.
Yeah, I guess.
But I get tired of the drive. But I'm just saying, it's like, it's the commitment, especially at the very beginning. And it's kind of self-reflects, and I think it's a lot easier for people now because you do have the internet. When the waves are going to be good. Like getting skunked is a lot harder now. You're just dealing with more crowds. The wetsuits are infinitely better. Like ones that we used to struggle with used to like give you rashes. You were bleeding after every session. You were freezing. Couldn't lift your arms. All that kind of stuff. Like it was like why we kept surfing, I have no idea. Like that's how good surfing is. If you're gonna suffer that much, like that's how good it is. That's all. I don't know.
That's a really cool way to summarize it. Actually, it's like you think back to and I didn't even get the worst of it. Like, the further back you go, the worse the gear was. The boards sucked. The suits sucked.
And if you can even get it back.
Yeah, exactly. There's so many hoops, and the fact that you still throw away a very good education to end up by the beach. That's a testament to how sick the sport is and how rewarding and epic it is to get like that one wave of your year or whatever it is. So it's cool when you think about it that way. Like there's not many things that like take all your attention and drive and love and force you to manipulate your whole world to find it and meet it, basically.
But that's what I mean. And obviously there's other places on the planet that, surfers have to suffer as well. I think, Canada's kind of been a really cool spot in history where it is kind of recent-ish, but not super recent. We have like 40 years of solid surfing history, and actually goes into the 50s really. But I think we're in a really cool spot, and especially with the women's surfing on the West Coast. I don't know what it's like on the East Coast and the Great Lakes, but it seems like from seeing Instagram, it's pretty 50-50, and the same thing on the West Coast. And that's so rare to see anywhere in the sport. So I think that's a very Canadian thing.
Oh, okay.
Where, gender equity and, they're really, although there was localism and there still is a little bit, I don't know if you call it localism anymore, but it's not the super most welcoming at certain times in certain places. But Tofino's just really is that spot, Tofino and Yuki and on the West Coast. But it's great to see. Like there isn't we're not stuck with that that old structure that, the Californians and potentially Hawaiians and Aussies have, where it was really tough for girls to break into the lineup, or other minorities or whatever. Like over here, it's, I think it goes back to, just the harsh climates. If you can put in the time, you've earned your stripes. It doesn't matter who you are. You got it's really merit-based, meritocracy. And I think that's what's super cool about surfing. The ocean is everything and unfeeling at the same time. It's a life force, yet it doesn't care who you are.
The greatest equalizer.
Yeah, it's as democratic as you can get. Right?
Yeah.
If you're good at synchronizing your body with the swell energy, you're gonna get the respect from other surfers in the water, and they're gonna get the good waves. And that's purely based on time in the water and your skill set, and you're earning your stripes. So and that's the cool thing. Like, there's no like, oh man, there's a girl in the water, there's whatever. So I think that's a really cool Canadian thing. I haven't really experienced it anywhere else.
No. Yeah, and there's some great players for sure on the female side of surfing in Canada.
Yeah, amazing. And the super cool thing right now, as everyone can see, it's like women's surfing is just exploding right now. Like, the girls coming up, including our own, like Sanoa and Mateo, but there's such a cool group of ROMs coming up that's really pushing the performance, and it's so exciting. I like, every week you're looking at new clips and just blowing my mind. Like, it's there's Erin Brooks out of Hawaii who's half Canadian. Her mom's a Canadian, and she's kind of on the pathway to get on our national team as well. And if you look her up, she's like packing barrels at Pipeline, and she's 13. In the mental eyes, and on her backside, just packing barrels and big areas.
Wow.
Yeah, she's insane. And then there's another kid, Luke Kenna, another kid who's like half Hawaiian, half Canadian. And and that's the other cool thing. There's Canadians all around the world, and I think that kind of indicates, like, we have to travel as Canadians. Like, it's kind of in our DNA. Like, if you're a surfer, you're going to travel, especially in the winter. So, some of those Canadians kind of drop roots, in Australia and, Central America. I know a lot of friends that have never come back, and they have family in the world. So there's going to be another generation of, passport Canadians that are going to be coming through and help push the performance of, the homegrowns.
Yeah.
So it's really, really an exciting time for this next group of homegrown talent. And it's always been, like I said, at the beginning of the show, it's just like, our depth of talent's always been really, really thin. Like, it hasn't been very deep, and it's getting, now we're seeing it. It's getting deeper by the year. So really cool. I'm excited about our future.
For sure.
I can see Canada, and we are, Canada is on the ISA top 10 country in the world.
Okay.
In the open. So, we've made huge strides, from being a third tier country in the 20s to a top tier country in the top 10.
Wow.
And battling for those spots. We have a great opportunity coming up, and come watch, check out, CSASurfCanada.org, and follow along on our On Track to Tokyo. So it's going to be exciting. I hope everybody that surfs in Canada or has, some sort of interest in surfing, they're going to follow along and cheer. It's nothing like sport to bring a community together. I truly believe it.
For sure. I think we might come back to the Olympics, but I want to bring this up with Noah. So Noah, the other day, Dom and I were talking, and he brought up something that really piqued my interest. We were talking about the discipline of surfing, and there was a bit of comparison going on between Surf Canada and the curriculum of Paddle Canada for SUP sports. And I recently did my ISA, instructor training. So we were talking about that and some of the curriculum and whatnot. And Dom was talking about how, a lot of the reasons why so much of that infrastructure is new and is still being developed is because surfers by nature are these sort of nonconformist, free-spirited sort of people. But then he got on to this side of how sport and competition has also always been a part of our DNA. You know, who could do it better on that day? That's how you quoted it. So I'm wondering, for you as an athlete, Noah, how do you balance that competitive side versus all that other stuff that comes along with surfing, of it being personal, of it being an expression, of it being maybe, hey, I don't want to know what you thought of what I just did. I don't want any of that pressure.
Yeah. I mean, that's like, I feel that the day that it was announced that surfing was going to be in the Olympics, that question, maybe slightly worded differently, was basically, you know, there's a lot of like surfing purists that thought it was a bad, you know, something they weren't excited about. And, you know, you're bringing a more organized governing body in to like take away the soul of your sport. And I think it's a lot of personal preference, but at the same time, it's funny because those same people are probably sitting there watching WSL on their computers. So you're like, you're watching the same fucking thing, but like suddenly now it matters. So yeah. I don't know. I didn't grow up in the action sports realm, and like surfing was my first foray into action sports. Other than that, I was a team sport kid, like super jockey and soccer, hockey, and that kind of thing. That's what I liked. So I didn't come from like the skate, like counterculture as much. And for me, that isn't instilled in me. Like I'm the guy that's like probably more like the push-up protein shake type dude. But at the same time, I don't love competing as much as, you know, a lot of people do. So I feel like I still do have, you know, that element of I surf because I love it, but I did grow up watching sports. So I feel torn sometimes too.
Okay.
I think people, it's just personal preference, really. Like whatever it is to you is fine. But it's funny to me when people are like, there's a lot of people up in arms about the Olympics as if it was going to like suck the soul away. And it was kind of like, well, competitive surfing has been already doing the same thing in my eyes for a long time. And to me, I look at the Olympics especially as like this absolute celebration of sport and the world coming together. And what I've experienced at ISAs and Pan Am trials is that to like, you know, a tiny degree. And it's always been such an epic experience that when I did hear that surfing was in the Olympics right away, I was like, oh, that's epic. And if I could ever get to go, I would in a heartbeat be wanting to do that. So I don't know. It's a funny debate. And I don't think there's ever going to be unanimous agreement. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. It's just, what is a sport to you? Right. Or maybe it's not a sport to you. Like, to me, it's both. It's my absolute favorite thing to do. It's what I've, you know, molded my life around to make sure I can always be in the ocean. And I can tell, like, when I do go through injuries or when I go through, you know, stuff that commands my attention for a few days, the absolute thing I want to do the most after those few days of not being in the ocean is just get in the ocean and go surfing. So whether it means, oh, I'm doing it because it's my job, or I'm doing it because I'm in a heat, or just simply doing it because I love it, it's all those things, you know? So I know it's probably a shitty answer to the question.
No, it's great. Yeah.
I think it really depends on, you know, like Dom spoke about, he's really into the sports side of stuff. And for him, it having those stakes is important. And it really, you know, as a fan, I think when you have those stakes and you're like, okay, there's a minute left, here comes a wave. Can this male or female perform under pressure? Can they give it their best right now, one shot, go? There's something to that's pretty damn sweet. And it's pretty cool to, like, you know, be part of the moments where you do perform and you do make the heat. And we got to do that together in France. And I was there for when Pete won, and like, I literally getting goosebumps thinking of those moments because they're special, man. And I think all the people that are, you know, preaching negative stuff probably haven't experienced that. And I bet if they did, they'd probably find it a lot more entertaining than they think they would. But who knows? I
don't think it necessarily has got to be binary, black and white. I think it's
I feel like I'm in like the total, like I said.
It's a spectrum, and that evolves, changes. I think a lot of it from the purist standpoint, you know, it's really kind of selfish, you know, because I'm the same way. It's like, I don't want my spot to get crowded. It already is crowded. And it's like, you know, right away, Olympics, spotlight, you're going to go, oh man, there's going to be thousands more people in the water. that means less waves. I
But,
get
like
it.
what makes you so special.
Yeah, you know, it's
back
like
to that ideology.
yeah, you know, and yeah, and I get
Not
that.
you, but
Yeah, and I get that at its selfish point because surfers are selfish, you know, like, and that's where we talked about where it's part of surfing DNA is that competition for that wave. It's part of it, and that's how competition is based on. Now you got 20 minutes or 30 minutes to get the best waves, and that it's the battle. It's exactly just a microcosm of what happens in a lineup, anyways, right? And the best surfer is going to get the best waves, and that's how it is, and that's what happens every single day. It's not like snowboarding or skateboarding or whatever. It's like take your turn, like hey, it's your turn going down the run or whatever. In surfing, it's like no, I want that wave. Look at this set coming in. I'm battling for it. That's competition. And then when you're on the wave, you don't want to blow it. You want to blow up in order to get another good set wave. So it's like it's a feedback loop that way, right? Yeah. So like I said, you know, I get the purest part of it. Yeah, I'd love to like surf alone at a point break with a buddy or two, and that's happened. Those are beautiful moments, absolutely. But I'm not like jumping out of my chair, screaming my head off, going yelling, "Go Pete, go Matea, go!" You know, Noah. Like I'm like losing my mind when I see these kind of moments. Like, again, chills. You know, like it's like nothing like sport does that for me. And I think you know a lot of people can say that because sports is like a multi-billion-dollar industry across all the different sports around the world, you know, like trillion probably.
Clearly someone might
and I think,
and, you know, and the Olympics is awesome. It's like, yeah, you know, like there's, you know, I'm conflicted on the Olympics too, because there's, you know, there's a lot of, you know, everything's hypocrisy, right? You know, like I love the spirit of the games. Obviously it's like, you know, people coming in for the pure act of who's the best, you know, I want to see absolute pure human performance. You know, like who's going to run the fastest, you know, like, or who's going to like whatever. And then there's like the business side and the political side that kind of mars the purity of sport. And that's, you know, that's the world we live in. So it's like, what are you going to focus on? You know, it's like, it's both sides of the same coin, right? Like you're going to have a dark side and a positive side. And I always like to look at the positive. This is why I do it. And, you know, you're going to have to go, like you're going to do things that you don't want to do. Like there's a pile of administrative stuff that I need to do in order to make sure sport is sport in Canada. You know? But, you know, and that's, business is sport, the politics of sport. There's, you know, like, but, you know, when you look at it and those pure moments, like, seconds left on the clock, under the gun, who's going to perform, you know, it's all or nothing right now. And I think that's one of the coolest thing about surfing compared to snowboarding, compared to skateboarding. It's not like under the gun. It's head-to-head competition. You got to beat someone else, not the field, right? So you know, we can go deeper in why I think competitive surfing is superior to a lot of sports. It's very tactical. It's not just technical. You know, like it's a chess match. It's a dynamic chess match. You know, you got to be on, you know, the offense and the defense at all times. You know, like not wait your turn. You know, like that's the thing. It's and that's the same thing with, you know, being out surfing in the lineup. You know, it's like you're constantly jockeying. You're looking at who's next to you. You know, who's going to be in position. Hey, didn't that just guy get a wave? Who's back paddling me? Like it's not a chill time in the water in most places. You know, it's it's in our DNA. It's in surfing's DNA to get good. Best way.
Why is it? First of all, actually, I want to say the other thing too, I think that makes this extra exciting is that these are all firsts as well. Like not just first Olympics for surfing, but first Canadian athletes going to the Olympics for surfing. I mean, history is unfolding. And I'm wondering, why is it what took surfing so long to get to this moment?
There's a lot of things around it. You know, the Olympics has changed a lot in the last couple of decades. You know, their motto is, what is it again? Fastest, strongest, whatever. So if it's not, they didn't want to put in any judged events for the longest time. And up until this time around, like in order to add an event or a sport, you had to remove a sport. Now it's more up to the host cities what sports they want. So, for example, baseball and softball keep coming in and out of the Olympic Games, depending on who's hosting it. So it's a lot more fluid now, and that was kind of a big question mark with the Canadian Olympic Committee about surfing when it was first added to the Tokyo program. They all thought it was just going to be a one-off, like, oh, it's going to Tokyo, and so we're not going to invest in surfing. You know, you do whatever you want to do, just kind of go through it. So there wasn't a whole lot into it. It's like, yeah, it's kind of cool, surfing, whatever. And but then, you know, it was like, you know, Paris 24, you know, said they wanted it and they got it. So now we're 2 games, and then LA 28, you know, surfing and skateboarding are the poster events for LA. So we're in 3 Olympic Games in a row. That basically entrenches the sport into the Olympic Games. So now there's, you know, we're going to look past, you know, Tokyo 2020, and, you know, I can definitely foresee being, you know, some legitimate, you know, financial support coming from, you know, the sporting bodies within the system here in Canada, you know, on the developmental side, because we're not getting any of that right now. You know, we do, you know, most of our revenue comes from our commercial partnerships with, you know, Rip Curl and Red Bull and Corona and Mill Bay Marine Group. And yeah, those are our top 4 premier partners. So that's where we get most of our revenue. And that was, you know, mostly because of our national championships. So, you know, with Sport Canada, you know, adding core funding and developing, you know, the sport, the introduction, and, you know, including all the, you know, the governance and administration and everything else that needs to go along with it. So yeah, now we're looking at, you know, not a one-off, it's not just a, oh, you know, a little blip in history. It's going to be a legitimate sport. And again, like the change in where the IOC and the Olympic Games is, they're moving towards you know, a greener, sustainable model. So, you know, they're looking at host cities that have already hosted or have most of the facilities. They don't have to build stuff. And surfing is, you know, there's nothing to build. Put up some scaffolding and whatever else. You know, it's very temporary. It doesn't affect the environment at all. You don't have to generate anything, you know, like you're not building any infrastructure really. So it's a very green in that respect, and ticks a lot of boxes for the, you know, the new Olympics.
So when surfing came into the Olympics, I take it wasn't just assumed that Canada's part of the Olympics. Did you then you had to take Surf Canada and make your proposals and really fight for that? No, what did that look like?
Well, no, so everybody has, so in order to qualify for the Olympic Games, it's by name. So Canadians still have to qualify for the Olympic Games. It's not like Canada gets a quota and we get to pick who gets to go. They still have to qualify through this final qualifier in El Salvador at the end of May, beginning of June. So, but yeah, because it's part of the Olympic program, it basically opens the door for the Canadian Olympic Committee to say, okay, we're going to accept surfing as an official sport underneath the Canadian Olympic Committee, because they're a national Olympic committee, an NOC, under the IOC. So it's all about jurisdiction and stuff. I don't want to get too deep into it, but yeah, so it's not an automatic you're a COC or a Canadian Olympic Committee recognized sport in Canada. It literally took years to do. You know, we had to redo our whole governance or bylaws or, you know, policy suites. You know, had to have a board, and yeah, there's a lot of requirements in order to be officially recognized by the Canadian Olympic Committee. There's a lot of you know, dots to hit, or I's to dot, T's to cross, and
we know what you're trying to say.
Yeah, it was a long and arduous process, and, you know, like I said earlier, you know, if I knew then what I know now, what I had to go through to get to this point, and we're not even in the Olympics yet. You know, we went to the Pan Am Games, absolutely incredible experience. Like I said, Mateo Olin, you know, winning the bronze medal, first ever, you know, medal, obviously because it's surfing for the first time, but absolutely incredible seeing her on the podium, and, in the Canada jumpsuit or tracksuit and with the medal, and that's forever burned in my brain. And in the previous year for the trials going into it, when she won gold and bronze, it was So imagining that going into the Olympic Games times, there's no bigger sporting event in the world, like FIFA World Cup, but it's one single sport, but it's in terms of audience numbers, it's probably very similar. But this is the biggest multi-sport event. It's something that I've always looked to since I was a little kid. Like the Olympic Games is just like something that you just wanted to do. And I was lucky enough as a kid to go to a couple Olympics as a spectator, and it's just the energy. And then plus Vancouver 2010, you were there, I was there. It was Vancouver's never.
I was there.
You were there. It was like, come on, like the energy. It was like when the games ended, it was like so depressing.
Yeah.
Like how depressed were you?
It was a come down. It was like a full come down.
Yeah,
it was so electric.
And that's literally like as soon as the Olympics was over, I moved back to the island. Like I was working for IMG at the time, and they basically closed the office after the Olympics, and I was like, yeah, perfect. I'm going back to the island. So but I'm just saying the experience of the Olympics is just again, it's the culture, all the different cultures coming together. And if you've never experienced it, it is something else. And I know Toronto had the Pan Am Games back in 2015. Was that right? And I heard that was probably the best Pan Am Games ever. Yeah. So, for some of your audience that lived through that or experienced that, the one, hopefully Tokyo is able to have, spectators and not just local spectators. Hopefully it opens up and, the athletes get to actually experience the full Olympic experience.
Yeah.
I feel like it would be a real big miss for a lot of the athletes and not getting the full experience because it's just unbelievable.
I can't wait to see you guys on television, walking in the opening ceremonies. I'd just be like, I know those guys. Like that's going to be awesome.
Oh, that was another thing I never thought I'd experience either. And again, Lima 2019, the opening ceremonies, I didn't think I was supposed to be included in it. I thought it was just the athletes. And as a team lead, I got to be a part of it. And it was like walking into the stadium and there's like, I don't know, 60,000 people. And you're just like, it's out of body. Like like you imagined it as a little kid. Oh, I'd love to do that. And, but you never actually thought you would. And it was, I didn't go in as an athlete, but I was with the athletes, and it was such a surreal and proud moment that, oh my God, after all these years, we've achieved this. And if I never achieve anything more, like I'm good. But after that, I'm like, no, we got a higher mountain to climb. Like I said, I got no quit in me. There's still way more. Like I've committed to this till at least LA 28, and we're gonna get some Canadians out at the Olympics and
amazing. So I know we were trying to avoid the C word, the COVID-19. It came up enough, but the last time I got asked about it, I know you're not in control of COVID-19, but when do you anticipate the Olympics might actually happen?
Well, the date is set. Okay. So it's July 23rd to August 9th.
Of 2021 now. Okay.
Yeah, 2021. But dates were set last year. All systems are go. Everybody involved is working as if it's happening.
Okay.
Everybody, it's like an absolute certainty in terms of all the workload. Everybody's working as if it's happening.
Okay.
The only way it's going to shut down, and people ask me this all the time, it's like a meteor hits, aliens from outer space disrupt it, or, this blows up even worse, or who knows, something else. I don't know. There might be something else, but everybody's working as if it is. Japan, the organizers have already said, this is it. Like we can't delay it any further. It's happening now, or it's not happening at all.
Okay. So will the next Summer Olympics be 4 years after, or will it go?
It's going to be a compressed cycle, so it's
Okay.
2024. So now we have 3 years to the next one. So this one got stretched, and the next Olympic cycle is now 3 years.
Okay.
So we don't have, the protocol for selections, but we do know that they expanded the field. So the field in Tokyo is 20 women, 20 men, and I believe in Tokyo it's a bizarre number. I think. Yeah, in Tahiti. Yeah. And what did I say?
Tokyo twice.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, I'm here.
Yeah, Tahiti. Thank you. For Tahiti, 20. Well, it's
fact checker.
But the contest is in Tahiti at Chopu, which is. I am so happy that the Paris team made that happen. Okay. And I really thought they would make it happen. Like there's a lot of people said, no, it's going to be in Lacanau or Biarritz, which would have been awesome. Like what a surf town. We love it there. But yeah, in Chopo, it's really going to, I think it's going to take over. The visuals coming out of Tahiti during the Olympic Games, I think it's going to take over the game.
So will you be going to?
Yeah, it's a compressed cycle. We don't know what the qualification is for Tahiti, but I know we're going to have to be there a bunch of times for qualification. They're obviously not going to do qualifiers in that beach break in order to qualify for Chopu, which is, the heaviest planet that's on the tour.
Now, Noah, if I remember correctly, you were not going to the 2020 Olympics, correct?
No.
Okay. But now with 2021, are you back in the running?
Unless there's a job.
He's coming.
Okay.
I'll push your job that I can scoop.
I got some passes for you.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we can talk about his big mistake during the Olympic selection trials, but I'm sure he doesn't want to relive that one again. But hey, what are you gonna do? He basically gave it away, and Pete got it and advanced, and got the final Olympic spot. And so he owes Noah.
So now I'm pencil pushing.
So yeah, but you came back the next heat and you fought. Yeah, it was good to see. You didn't want to let another one slide, but that's another thing. Again, with surfing in Canada and so few competitions and the culture we have around competing, it's a lot different than what it's like in Latin America, where they're paddling over each other. So there's a lot of respect between the surfers on the West Coast, and they're not as cutthroat, and to a fault actually. In the big bad world of sports, you have to be. You got to be able to cut your best friend's throat sometimes if you want to make the team. So.
So sorry, not sure if I caught that exactly. So Noah, do you have a chance for 2021, or is the team? No, okay.
No.
So it's the same team that would have been going to 2020 is still okay.
Yeah, nothing's changed now.
Okay.
So the selections that were done in 19 have to hold all the way through to 21.
Okay.
So nothing changes that, and that's been all ratified by the International Olympic Committee and our International Federation. So nothing can change. So yeah.
Okay. So Noah 2024 then. Okay.
Yep. Running for 24. He's killer on the backside, that's for sure. Backside barrel hound, this guy.
We'll see.
Yeah. Tahiti, why not? Let's go.
Tahiti sounds nice regardless. I'll pencil push at that one too if I have to.
Yeah.
Well, he's going to take over my role one day when I retire. That's my succession plan.
2028.
Grooming me.
Grooming.
Subconsciously
this will all be yours.
Like the sunset we just had from The Office while we were talking to you, I was like, damn, I could do some office work here.
Right on.
Corona's just doing paperwork.
Yeah, by then hopefully you'll have some people doing a lot of your work.
Yeah, exactly. I'll be delegating. Yeah. I'm better boss.
So what's the surf like in Tokyo?
It's much like the East Coast of Canada or the US. It can be very good and it can be flat. So that time of year, it's a little early on the typhoon season. This year, we watched during the Olympic window what it would have been, and it would have been in the second half of the Olympic window, and there was definitely 4 decent days. Like it would have been considered really good days here on the West Coast in the summer. But yeah, it can be big and chunky and stormy, typhoon. The thing about Tokyo this year, it was a weird year because it wasn't hot. You need it really hot to get those typhoons going. So what's good for us isn't good for the endurance athletes. So if you're a marathon runner and it's like 100% humidity and 35 degrees, which is what it's going to be usually like in July, August, they're going to be, I'm pretty sure they're scheduled to run at like 2 a.m. or something like that.
Wow.
But this year it would have been fine because I don't think it got above 25 degrees and humidity was pretty regular. So yeah, we don't know. But they've done a regression analysis over the last, I think it was 10 or 12 years. And, it was pretty high. It was like 80% that'll be, 5 foot plus over that Olympic window. So, they picked a really good spot. It's a jetty break. So the sand holds, even if it's small, it's got really good shape. So I've been there a few times, to secure our off. We're not going to be in the Olympic Village because we're like 2 hours away. So we have to secure our own accommodation. So I've been there a few times, and yeah, I love Japan. The culture there is amazing. If it was in September when we've had the last 2 World Championships there, it was pumping nonstop. Like September, like most places in the world, is prime time. But end of July, early August. Yeah, we're expecting it could be anything, right? So, and that's where I look to Pete DeVries, who's been training all his life and, probably as bad a beach break as you possibly get, 350 days of the year, dozen days of the year, it's really good or whatever. But, and with the 5 mil wetsuit. So, I give him even odds, to hit the podium at Tokyo. Like the guy is an absolute weapon in small surf. And we saw that at the last World Championships. He took out world number 1 Felipe Toledo and world number 2 Jordy Smith in Japan in the same heat in, chest high waves. Like there's no question Pete DeVries has got every weapon you need to get gold medal.
I know, I always say that too. Like if it's like any kind of beach break, shifty peak, head high and under, it's like he can be thrown in with absolutely anyone and beat them. Like Low, Gabe, like whoever, like he's that good. So
yeah,
I would back him in head high and under beach breaks all day long.
Yeah.
And like Dom said, that's just what he's grown up with, and he's like that good. When you watch him in a bad wave, it's incredible. Like
he absolutely he shocked everybody other than us because we knew. But in Japan, like Jordy Smith and Felipe Toledo, world number 1 and 2 at the time, and especially Felipe Toledo,
he's like the small wave king too.
He's a small wave king, and he smoked him. So like, he had a little bad luck later in the heat, later in the week when it was like really garbagey and he lost in like the last couple of seconds. Anyways, we don't have to go down that, but yeah, he was on track to make the finals day and everything else. And that's sports. It's especially with the ISA games because they're so long. They're 9 days long, and you got to be on every day. And some days you got multiple heats, and others you don't. And it's taxing on your mentally. It's like they say, a 20-minute heat feels like a 3-hour session. That's how mentally focused you are. It's hyper. Yeah, you talk about it. No, I haven't competed in years, so.
Well, those ISA ones for sure. Yeah, you kind of have to like be able to. You obviously have to be able to switch off in the evenings and sleep properly. And then like every morning, it's like back in your little mode. And I mean that last event that I was at in France in 2017. I was in the 3rd or 4th round by the end, and it ended up being like 6 or 7 days to get through those 4 rounds. And I remember just being like, it's like this grind of being always ready, and then like I said, being able to sleep. And I think one of the days I remember I got in like a fender bender and in fucking super chaotic rants, and like dude, I got to heat an hour, and I'm like fighting with some woman in French, and I'm just like, this is not where your mind needs to be, So there's all these little external factors that you can't even control either, and it's just a grueling long thing to do mentally, and it's a testament to whoever wins. Like they deserve that. They've been on for that many days and found a way to get through each heat, and it's a lot a lot more complicated than just going out and surfing for 20 minutes, you know, like there's a lot to it.
It's really a mental marathon. It's and you're dealing with varying conditions all the time. You know, France, it was crazy because
huge tides,
it'd be like dead flat for half the day, and
they like postpone it. They'd run heats for the morning, and then be like, okay, come back in 5 hours, and you come back in 5 hours, and you'd be like, no, 1 more hour, and it's just like,
and you're in the next
and you're in the first heat when they start. So you're like in your jersey and then waiting 3 hours and then in your jersey again. It's like, it's a lot, right? But and some people are just, their ability, like the ones that succeed competitively are the ones that have figured out a way to always be able to tune into that mode, obviously. And that's something for me that I haven't learned what works best. And I think that's why I find I generally perform best outside of contests. Like I feel like that's something that for whatever reason, I just never really managed to find that. Whereas like both when I look at Pete and Matea as another one, it's like those moments come and they know exactly what they need to do to get the best out of themselves. And it's one of those, like, it's a skill that is learned, and some people have it, some people don't, and some people work a lot harder than others for it, I think. And it's really cool to see when people can like hone into the, you know, the like flow state essentially and get the best out of themselves for those 20 minutes.
That optimal performance curve and being able to switch it on and switch it off when necessary is like the biggest battle for any athlete in any sport. It really is. And surfing, I think adding in all the natural elements makes it even tougher. So, you know, we've been, you know, part of my role is working with consultants, and that includes mental performance consultants, you know, seeing what we can do to support our athletes through these kind of things. So, you know, that's part of the integrated support team. So there's a lot of science behind the art of surfing, especially competitive surfing, because it really is a blend of art and science when you get down to it. And, and, you know, as surfers, and I guess, you know, going back to that purist thing, it's like, you know, and with the whole, you know, John versus Gabriel, you know, like John just makes it look so effortless. Like he's not really trying. But, you know, looking at the last couple of videos like Tokyo Rising and stuff, now you're starting to actually see how actual competitive he is, how much work he really does put into it. You know, like you don't become a world champion or win an event by accident. You don't go to the Olympics by accident. It takes a lot of preparation. It really is. And surfers, I think, and skateboarders and that whole lifestyle stuff, it's trying to make the difficult look easy. And that's what makes it cool. So I think that's where that, you know, another part of that, you know, the Olympics thing, it's not cool, you know, because you got to work. You got to really work for it. You know, people in other sports will work literally 8-10 years of their life for one moment, one shot at the Olympics. You know, at least with surfing, there's, you know, was a world tour, you know, there's other things.
Just surfing and like surfing itself.
And there's surfing itself. Exactly. You know, like even if you don't want to train, you want to go surf. So it's like, it's not, you know, there's purposeful surfing for specific things. And
like how many people are just pole vaulting around?
Well, like, you know, if you're a pole vaulter, not to bag on pole vaulters, but are they still pole vaulting after they're done? Like, you know, like a football player, are they still playing football? They might throw a ball around, but, you know, there's very few people in professional sports that continue doing what they did. But the lifestyle sports, that's why it's a lifestyle. It's part of who you are. So, you know, unless there's something physically wrong, I think, you know, most people will surf
until you're dead, basically.
Until you can't.
That's fascinating.
You know.
So
that's my perspective, anyways.
So Pete DeVries, 2021, Canada's man.
Matea Olin, gold medal. We're gonna swing.
Okay, and Matea, I was gonna ask you, female side, Matea Olin.
First.
Right on. Who we've also had on the show and was a delight. Yeah.
Yes.
Amazing.
Yeah, she's turning 18 in just a couple more weeks. February 2nd, turning 18.
Oh, great.
Yeah, so this extra year off for her, or the pause, has actually been a good thing for Matea. She's matured, you know, so much, you know, physically, mentally, spiritually. Like she's a much better surfer, and she was great last year. Like I said, she won the bronze for the Pan Am Games. Like she's like a world, you know, like full on. Like she could go on to the championship tour. Her barrel game, frontside barrel game is insane. Like she's been, well, you've been taking her, to your spot, and her barrel game's insane. Like her frontside carves on right-hand points are world class. Like she's Steph Gilmore class, like
Yeah.
I put her up there, and she's just turning 18. And then her younger sister Sonoa. It's like, it's we got some talent for sure.
We got artillery, yeah.
Yeah, and I can't wait for the world to go, what the hell? What just happened?
Yeah.
And to happen. That's what happened. Yeah. So
yeah. Since when could hosers surf?
Yeah.
So Noah, I will say though about Matea, I will take your book recommendations over hers any day.
I hope so.
Share her recommendation. She's reading. I asked her what she's reading. 17-year-old, girl. It's some kind of like how to be a great person and successful or whatever.
Self-help action.
So,
yeah.
Personal growth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See that though.
Well, I'm pretty sure that Pete DeVries has been like pushing her through some books, some personal development books.
He was reading it, she said, and she saw him reading it on a plane. Yeah. And then she picked it up. Yeah.
Pete and Matea are very similar type of people. They're very analytical about themselves, very cerebral. At least this is me projecting on them.
Yeah.
I've known Pete since he was like 12, 13 years old when, doing the events again way back then, and his first worlds in Portugal and everything else. So, I've seen him grow up, and like I saw him as a kid, very similar to Matea. People call him an old soul, but just mature beyond their years. Like they're just so self-aware.
Yeah.
And the rest of us are just kids, having a good time.
Yeah.
Still, it's gotta be fun, right?
So as we start to wrap up here, you touched on something earlier, Dom, that I'm really curious to hear more about. You mentioned wave pools in Canada. So what is the future for us landlocked surfers? Is there something more on the way?
Yeah, I hope so. I've been working quite a few years on 3 different projects, and I think I should say we have a very strong chance that there will be a wave pool, shovels in the ground, maybe by next December.
Wow.
Yeah.
Are you allowed to tell us where?
Well, maybe even sooner. So yeah, sure. Why not? It's all, well, actually, no, I can't talk about one of them. So one of them, it's an NDA, non-disclosure agreement.
So broke the bond.
So
I'll edit it out.
So one that's very public is South Britannia, which is on the Sea to Sky Highway.
Oh, okay.
And they're halfway through the permitting process, and that's probably the one that's going to have the shovel on the ground the soonest. It sounds like they have everything else in a row. They got their capital sorted out, everything's sorted out, and they're working with Wave Garden on that one. I've been working with West Edmonton Mall for a number of years because they already have a facility. They just need to get an upgrade on their swell generator. So they own what is it called again? There's a new mall in New Jersey called, not Mall of America, but whatever. I'm gapping here, but it's basically a sister mall to West Edmonton Mall. They've got a water park in there too. That's with a wave pool generated by American Wave Machines. So they've already got them as a supplier. And the plan was pre-COVID was replace the guts of the West Edmonton Mall pool with American Wave Machine machinery, basically their swell generator. So that was going to be like the path of least resistance because everything was built, it's already owned, it's already operating. It's just replacing, the 35-year-old swell generator with state-of-the-art stuff. So that's still on the table. It's just COVID's in the way and everything else. And So hopefully that happens, because that would give Canada, a 4-season, enclosed, climate controlled, facility where we can surf anytime. The one in on the Sea to Sky Highway would be open to the elements, so very similar to what they're opening up in Switzerland right now. Again, wave garden, on the bottom of basically a valley that has ski hills. So very similar to that, but you'd be exposed to the elements, you'd be wearing a wetsuit and everything else. There is a third project that I'm working on, but like I said, I can't talk about it, but it is on the West Coast, and we're but
it's super close to where all the surf is, ironically.
Yeah, so for us it makes a lot of sense as a training facility and all that kind of stuff, and be open to the public, obviously. However, as soon as one of these facilities open, it's just a matter of time before Ontario, Quebec will jump into the mix. And that's part of our hope when we do go to Toronto this fall and Halifax this fall. It starts opening up doors to corporate Canada, and seeing that whoa, I didn't I don't know how many millions of people live in Toronto, but and aware of the lakes, but don't know that there's surf there, and they definitely don't know there's hundreds if not thousands of surfers out there. And I just heard from Nick at Rip Curl that there's a big big banner. No, what am I thinking of? There's a big, what's it called? Big advertisement in downtown Toronto.
Oh, billboard.
A big billboard. Sorry,
there
we go. I'm tired. A big billboard in downtown Toronto. This guy in a barrel.
Really?
Yeah. So look for that.
Okay. I'll have to find out. Do you know what corner it's at? I'll go take a picture of that sometime.
It's at Surf the Greats, I think.
Okay.
I'm assuming that's where it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
So
that would make sense.
This is part of our next quadrennial strategic plan, is to expand into Ontario and make that develop the sport over there as well. We're not into we don't use the word growth. I don't like the word growth in surfing or anything, but developing. We just want to naturally allow people to self-select into this kind of a lifestyle, and it already exists. So if we can get a developer to come in and build a purpose-built wave park in the Toronto region, that would do great things for us, and deepen the talent pool for the next generation and so forth. So the same thing with Quebec. I have no doubt that they already have what do they have over there? I think they got like a standing wave.
Oh yeah,
standing wave and stuff. And
there's a river wave in Montreal.
Oh, there's a river wave, but there's also like an actual
flow rider,
or something.
Oh, okay.
I get requests from out there all the time about hey, we should do something about river surfing and stuff. But again, under our international federation, it's really not part of our program right now. But if our international federation starts saying, hey, we're going to start doing river surfing contests, then we'll be involved in that too. But I talked to the guys in the Alberta River Surfing Association, and they got a really cool culture of surfers going on there. I see on the Instagram that they're ice and snow right now, and they're hardcore, man. It's like I'm sure they're doing the same thing in Montreal and Quebec City and Ottawa, and that's going back to that's how great that surfing is, that you would suffer that no one else would do. Get into a raging, freezing 1 degree river to go stand on this moving body of water.
I saw some video of Eddie Castillo out there today with snow on the ground. And Jacob Kelly Quinlan, I found a river wave here, and I sent him some video of it, and I was like, what do you think? And he was telling me there's some potential. So if you don't bring the wave pool yet, I might have to work on those river waves.
I talked to Jacob now. I'm sure he's working on projects, not just in Canada, but around the world. Apparently, he's got his little side hustle there, building.
Did you ever explore the Kananaskis or the 10th Street wave when you were?
Well, I've seen the 10th Street wave. It's pretty small. And Kamnaskis, I was there in the wintertime and I've been invited out. And I'm like, I don't even want to be out there in like snow gear. I'm not
No,
going
okay.
in the water.
All right.
Yeah, I'm too old for that. My bones hurt. I'm into going to the tropics and stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm actually super happy that our final Olympic qualifiers in El Salvador. I've been going there literally every year for since the mid '90s. Like it's my favorite place to go. And
yeah,
I honestly feel like it's almost like again I've been spending all this time there for a reason. And here we are, final Olympic qualifiers, and we're going to the place that I've been going to for 25 years or whatever it's been.
Yeah.
So it all feels like I don't know, very
like
Forrest Gump. It's in
all in God's hands.
Feels so North Shore.
Yeah. Well, the future of surfing in Canada is looking great. It's still young. There's a lot of development that can happen. Dom, yeah. I thank you so much, man, for shepherding a lot of that along since the 80s. Noah, man, always awesome to have you on here, dude. And I can't wait to see you in Tahiti. I think that's going to happen.
Thank you, sir.
But in the interim, where can people connect with you guys? Where can they find what's up with Surf Canada, all that kind of thing? And if you got any final words you want to put out there to the audience today.
So we got an Instagram, just CSA Surf Canada, or just punch in Surf Canada, I think. CSA Surf Canada for everything. So our YouTube, CSA Surf Canada. Our website is csasurfcanada.org. All the information's on there. We try to keep it pretty up to date. I think that's pretty much it. Facebook, I don't know, does anyone still use that? But it's CSA Surf Canada on Facebook. We don't have Twitter. We're thinking about doing TikTok, but nah.
You said you have a YouTube channel though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And so check out, there were some of those videos. What were they called again?
Yeah, if you just go on our Surf Canada channel, they're just all over that. So there's, the one is the Coldwater Classic where Pete DeVries won it in 2009. So it's a two-parter there. That was done by O'Neill. And there's a few other videos, from nationals and some promo videos and stuff like that. But, look out for the Rip Curl Hometown Showdown. That's going to be broadcast by CBC Sports this spring, probably prime time on a Saturday. And we'll definitely post it on, our Instagram and stuff. So everyone should know when it is. And it's super, I think it's amazing video that Nate Laverty, produced for us. And Noah's in there, and Pete DeVries and Matea and Michael Darling and Catherine Breweiler and Jasmine Porter and Sanoa Olin and Reed Platenius.
Who else is there?
And Caleb Temple, Breweiler. I think that's it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nailed it.
Yeah. And it's going to be super cool. It's a killer video of, what we did during the pandemic and what the surfers have been, been doing during, the pandemic, like without the Olympics, and all the uncertainty, but still being able to surf. Yeah, just what's going through their minds and being able to compete again for the first time in like almost a year. So, a really cool backstory on it. And look out for it this spring on CBC Sports.
What was it called again, that video?
It's a Rip Curl Hometown Showdown.
Okay.
The event. I don't know what CBC Sports is going to call it, but
nice.
But that's the name of the event.
Awesome. Noah, man, I gotta say, dude, I always love your Instagram feed. The surfing pictures are awesome, but I gotta say, man, you've also caught some pretty awesome fish last year.
Yeah. I'm honestly not much of a fisherman at all, but I got the chance to go out. One of the companies in Tofino that I work with, Tofino Resort Marina, they've been a sponsor for the last year.
Okay.
Their owner is ex-Canuck, Willie Mitchell.
Okay.
Super into tuna fishing, especially. So he got me out there a few days, and tuna fishing is like a whole new ball game too. I've obviously gotten to fish for salmon a lot growing up, but to get out on a tuna boat and be, 30, 40, 50 miles offshore and like see nothing and be in like crystal clear blue water and
wow,
pulling in albacore tuna is pretty epic.
Yeah. Have you done some fishing with your buddy Logan Landry?
I've never actually fished with him. They were
No?
out here. He did a trip where I think they did some surf and some fish stuff, but I wasn't part of it. I got to surf with them once on the boat, but and then yeah, I don't think I've even been out to the East Coast in the last couple of years. So
yeah,
he's super into fly fishing.
Yeah,
he's a fly fisherman. Yeah.
Yeah, we stick to surfing together usually, but he's a buddy of mine.
Right.
Logan's a legend, man. I love that kid.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, he's really fun to talk with as well.
Yeah, shout out to all the surfers across Canada.
I think we owe the East Coast one after.
I can't wait to come out there. Like if we were allowed, if there wasn't an Atlantic bubble, I would have come this year. It would have been the perfect time to do it. But we're just gonna have to wait till, this year, 2020. So hopefully in 21, finally get to make it out to Nova Scotia. I hope.
Nice. Okay, we're healing the divide. West Coast loves East Coast.
You gotta have a little friction between.
You heard it here first,
right?
Biggie and Pop.
Yeah.
Nice.
Thanks so much.
Well, until next time, guys, I can't wait to see you out there holding the torch and for everything to come. I say mahalo for coming on the show and stay stoked.
Yeah, thank you.